Okay, so what I want to look at is something that went around on the internet. It has one of these, it's reincarnated every few years, one of these forwards that goes around attacking certain things from the Torah, verses from the Torah, from a very interesting and sort of sarcastic perspective. I want to go through one by one and answer them. The background to this email that went around was that it's addressed to a radio personality from LA, Dr. Laura Schlesinger. And she's actually an observant Jew who is pretty big in America on the radio, a conservative. And she made a statement on the radio concerning homosexuality many years ago, saying something to the effect of, the Bible forbids homosexuality, there's no two ways about it, and it's very clear. So this person wrote an open letter to Dr. Laura, and in it he pokes fun at biblical morality, saying, well, if you're so concerned about what it says in the Bible, could you please explain to me the following things? And one by one he quotes things from the Torah that could seem quite ridiculous. So let's have a look. We'll just read together the letter, and then one by one we'll go through some answers. So there's just a little introduction here. Dr. Laura Schlesinger is a radio personality who dispenses advice to people who call into her radio show. Recently she said that as an observant Orthodox Jew, homosexuality is an abomination according to Leviticus 18:22 and cannot be condoned under any circumstances. The following is an open letter to Dr. Laura penned by an East Coast resident, which was posted on the internet. It's funny as well as informative, and it's been around many times. So here's the letter, let's read it through. Dear Dr. Laura, thank you for doing so much to educate people regarding God's law. I have learned a great deal from your show and try to share that knowledge with as many people as I can. When someone tries to defend the homosexual lifestyle, for example, I simply remind them that Leviticus 18:22 clearly states it is to be an abomination. End of debate. I do need some advice from you, however, regarding some of the other specific laws and how to follow them. So first of all, when I burn a bull on the altar as a sacrifice, I know it creates a pleasing odor for the Lord, as it says in Leviticus 1:9. The problem is my neighbors. They claim that the odor is not pleasing to them. Should I smite them? Secondly, I'd like to sell my daughter into slavery, as sanctioned in Exodus 21:7. In this day and age, what do you think would be a fair price for her? Selling his daughter. Thirdly, I know that I'm allowed no contact with a woman while she is in her period of menstrual uncleanliness, as it says in Leviticus 15:19-24. The problem is, how do I tell? I've tried asking, but most women take offense. Okay? Then fourthly, in Leviticus 25:44 states that I may indeed possess slaves, both male and female, provided they are purchased from neighboring nations. A friend of mine claims that this applies to Mexicans, but not Canadians. So can you clarify? Why can't I own Canadians? Then, I have a neighbor who insists on working on the Sabbath. Exodus 35:2 clearly states he should be put to death. Am I morally obligated to kill him myself? Furthermore, a friend of mine feels that even though eating shellfish is an abomination, as it says in Leviticus 11:10, it is lesser abomination than homosexuality. I don't agree. Can you settle this? Okay. Next, Leviticus 21:20 states that I may not approach the altar of God if I have a defect in my sight. I have to admit that I wear reading glasses. Does my vision have to be 20/20, or is there some wiggle room here? Then, most of my male friends get their hair trimmed, including the hair around their temples, even though this is expressly forbidden by Leviticus 19:27. How should they die? And next,
does the Torah actually say that if you cut your payas, that's a death?
We'll have to look. We'll have to look into that. He's claiming that it's forbidden and therefore they should die. We'll have to see if it's a death penalty one. I know from Leviticus 11:6-8 that touching the skin of a dead pig makes me unclean. But may I still play football if I wear gloves? Because football's made out of pigskin. And then finally, my uncle has a farm. He violates Leviticus 19:19 by planting 2 different crops in the same field, as does his wife by wearing garments made of 2 different kinds of thread, cotton, polyester blend. He also tends to curse and blaspheme a lot. Is it really necessary that we go to all the trouble of getting the whole town together to stone them? Leviticus 24:10-16 says to do that, to stone them with the whole town together. Couldn't we just burn them to death at a private family affair like we do with people who sleep with their in-laws, as it says in Leviticus 20:14? I know you have studied these things extensively, so I'm confident you can help. Thank you again for reminding us that God's word is eternal and unchanging. Your devoted fan, Jim.
He's clearly at least done research.
Right.
He's a Christian.
Yeah, so this guy, he's gone through the book, particularly of Leviticus, some things from Exodus as well, and said, well, if someone like Dr. Laura quotes the Bible as her source for morality, so here's a bunch of quotes that I'd also like to see. How do you apply them today? You're saying because it says in Leviticus that homosexuality is an abomination, so therefore that's the end of the discussion about it. That's the moral stance. So what about these things? How do you apply these to the modern day? And obviously the point of the letter is to try and poke fun and ridicule on each one of these things that, like, it's an archaic book. How can you take biblical morality and try to apply it to modern times? Look at the weird and bizarre things that are said in this book.
Can you get
It doesn't make any sense.
As well, Mindy?
It can't be applied.